As the year draws to a close, a major standoff is looming between the Kenya National Union of Teachers, KNUT, and the Teachers Service Commission. KNUT wants the commission to immediately reverse the mass transfer of school heads and their deputies. KNUT Secretary General Wilson Sosion says the union will use any means possible, including industrial action, to block the transfers. Rita Tinina now reports on the latest row that comes ahead of the government's plan to roll out a new education curriculum in the new year.
I think it was...
The latest storm appears to have been kicked off by this announcement last Wednesday.
It is an enormous task because of the numbers we have in the teaching profession. We shall do a mammoth one this holiday and we shall continue.
A policy shift by the teachers' employer, the Teachers Service Commission. The transfer of head teachers and principals that has now put the government and teachers' unions on a collision course yet again.
TSC should know that they've engaged in the highest level of provocation to destabilize schools.
Effective January, as schools reopen for the first term, some 557 head teachers, principals and their deputies are expected to report to their new stations in what the government calls a delocalization plan, targeting those who have served in one school for more than 9 years.
And there's a lot of interest in particular schools. If you look at national schools, not just anyone could become a head in a national school, but the biggest challenge that we'll face is the implementation of this delocalization. Because it's a big elephant in the room, how do you deal with it? Because you're dealing with very, very powerful people. You cannot just imagine that some of these principals are controlling huge sums of money, millions of shillings.
The TSC says it will be considerate in the process.
And we are ensuring that you are not going to a lesser school. We are trying to give you a school with commensurate grades.
But the fact that the move caught the school heads off guard may partly explain why the government is facing opposition.
If I've lived in a place, I've been a principal here for 20 years, I've been a principal here for 10 years, for 15 years and such. When you start to tell me that I should move to another place, definitely you're moving me out of our comfort zone. 31
national schools will be affected, among them Alliance Girls High School. The school has had 8 principals since 1948. Catherine Irungu has been transferred to the Kitui Teachers College, being the shortest serving, having joined the school in March this year. But opposition to the transfers may not come from the unions alone.
There is a lot of political interference in the sense that politicians will decide who should become the head teacher in our school. Even sometimes parents will even demand that so-and-so has to go.
The delocalization, the government says, is meant to enhance national cohesion, renew teacher commitment and breathe freshness within schools. But to experts, transfers are one thing. How transitional management is handled will make all the difference.
If you look at the case of Stare, it's a classical case of how transitional management and alternative approaches towards transitional management have to be there. Griffin spent a lot of time grooming Yusuf Kingala to be the director of Stare Boys Center. And after Griffin passed on a few years ago, no one doubted that Kingala was going to take over. Now Kingala took up. But out of nowhere, rest in peace, Kingala just passed on. And so Stare was thrown into a spin.
The transfers come as the government prepares to roll out the new curriculum. And experts argue the timing may not be quite right.
So when there is the instability around the whole institution of management of schools, it creates a lot of anxiety in the sense that now people will no longer be focusing on the bigger project at hand, but they're now looking at aspects of survival because there's a lot of anxiety. Where am I likely to land? How long will it take me for me to settle down? So I think it's partly we're having lots of problems to start implementing the new curriculum.
The Kenya National Union of Teachers says there were no consultations over the transfers.
We will use any means, collective action, legal, industrial, to resist this.
The education sector has witnessed several reforms lately, including the move by the government to give textbooks directly to schools. But the mass transfers have set the government and teachers up for another battle, even as the government prepares to roll out its biggest policy shift since 1985, the new curriculum. Rita Tinina, KTN News.